It was raining, a cold, heavy rain. The night was dark, the streetlights dim, and most people were safe, warm, and dry in their homes, but there was a girl, soaked in thin clothes, standing alone on a corner. Her name was Emily. She was tired of life, of struggles, of herself. In her hand, she held an old wallet with just one crumpled $5 bill. She had nothing else, no money, no home, no one to call her own. Only a flicker of hope, and a weary heart. Then, her eyes caught something. Across the street, a man stood in a worn, dirty jacket. In his hands, a cardboard sign, "I have not eaten in 2 days." In his eyes, she saw the same hunger she felt inside. For a moment, she thought, I could spend this $5 on a cheap burger, or take a bus to a shelter. But in the next breath, she pulled out the bill, walked over to the man, and quietly placed it in his hand. With tears in his eyes, he said, "Thank you." Emily only smiled. A peace settled over her face, as if something inside had lifted. It was a small moment, but what happened next changed Emily's life forever. Childhood memories are precious to most, but for Emily, they were a burden. She was born in a small town in Ohio, in a modest home, with a small family, just her mother and father. The early years were simple, happy even, but one morning, when Emily woke up, her father was gone. No fight, no goodbye, just a note, "I am sorry. I cannot do this anymore." That day, Emily lost a piece of her childhood. And the light in her mother's eyes. Her mother, Linda, was a strong woman, but she was worn down. She worked 3 jobs, cleaning a hotel by day, cashiering at a store in the evening, and caring for an elderly woman at night. She lived for one reason, Emily. Emily understood early that if she wanted to be something, she would have to do it on her own. After school, she spent hours in the library, reading books, writing stories. Her words carried pain, but also hope. She would say, "One day, I will be a writer. And I will tell the world what no one ever told me." After high school, she earned a small scholarship and went to college. Days were filled with classes, nights with waitressing at a diner. Sometimes, she was so exhausted she could barely make it back to her dorm, but her dream kept her going. She never stopped writing stories, poems, journal entries. Once, she wrote in her diary, "If I have no money, no power, no platform, it does not matter. I have truth, and the courage to write." After college, she made a bold choice, to move to New York. She had an old laptop, 2 suitcases, and a heart full of 1,000 dreams. The first few months were hopeful. She found a part-time job at a coffee shop, rented a small place with roommates. By day, she worked. By night, she wrote about her life, her mother's struggles, her dreams. But life does not always follow plans. She sent her manuscript to 12 publishers. Each time, a rejection. "It is not marketable, too emotional, try again later." As her dreams were met with no after no, her spirit grew weary. Then the coffee shop let her go. "We are cutting staff. Sorry, rent was due." Her roommate said plainly, "You are sweet, Emily, but I cannot carry you anymore." Her bags were left outside. That day, it was raining. Emily, in an old hoodie, carried her entire world into suitcases to a public shelter. But one thing she never abandoned, her journal. At night, when the shelter slept, she wrote, with pain, but also with hope. One day, someone will read this, and maybe their heart will feel lighter. She had no money, no people, but her dream was still alive. This was the first chapter of Emily's story, a small town girl with big dreams, broken by the world again and again, yet she never stopped writing. She did not just survive, she held on to her dreams. And that made her story extraordinary. Sometimes, life exhausts you so much that even breathing feels like a burden. For Emily, that time had come. In a city where everyone chased dreams, Emily was alone. No job, no money, and now, no roof over her head. The shelter where she stayed was cold, crowded, and filled with people who had only one thing: emptiness. It felt like a prison, but Emily still wrote. In an old pen and a torn notebook, she pieced together the fragments of her heart, but the real pain was yet to come. Each morning, she set out with a resume in hand, a spark of hope in her eyes. She applied everywhere: cafes, libraries, bookstores, warehouses, even cleaning jobs. But when employers saw homeless shelter as her address, they would say, "We will get back to you," and no one ever did. Her laptop, the one that held her stories, her dreams, fell off a bed and broke. That night, she cried, not just for the laptop, but for the dreams it held. She reached out to old college friends for help. One said, "You should give up this writer dream. It does not work in the real world." Another told her, "You chose this pain." The people who once said, "I am proud of you," stopped replying to her messages. One day, in the dinner line at the shelter, a girl approached her. She lived there too, she said. "I am going to try drugs. At least it will dull the pain." Emily stayed silent, unable to respond. Inside, she was terrified. If my light goes out, will I end up on that path too? That was the day she asked herself, am I anything at all? Does it matter to anyone if I am alive? Every night, when the shelter slept, she sat in a corner and wrote in her gratitude journal, an old habit. No matter how bad the day, she wrote 3 things she was thankful for. One night, she wrote, "I am alive today. A stranger offered me tea. I felt like writing again." That same night, she added a line that became the truth of her journey. "As long as I have the strength to write, I cannot lose." But deep inside, she was breaking. She had only $5 left, and then, a moment came. A single choice that would change the course of her life. Sometimes, only when everything seems lost, does something new begin. Emily stepped out of the shelter into the cold, wet street, wearing just a hoodie. Her shoes were soaked, her hands trembling, and in her pocket was that single crumpled $5 bill. It was her last resort, enough for a cheap burger, a bus ticket, or to borrow a stranger's phone to beg an old friend for help. But as she crossed the road, her eyes fell on a man sitting in a corner. His face was weathered, his hands holding a cardboard sign, "I have not eaten in 2 days. Please help." Emily stopped for a few seconds. Their eyes met, and she felt a strange connection, as if pain had recognized pain. She pulled the $5 bill from her pocket, walked to the man, and without a word, placed it in his hand. With tears in his eyes, he said, "You do not know what this means to me." Emily replied softly, "I do." With a faint smile, she turned and walked away. In that moment, something shifted inside her. It was as if the light hidden beneath her pain flickered to life, but the story does not end there. Emily sat on a bench outside the shelter, that same quiet smile on her face. A woman approached her, in her 40s, wearing a warm coat and holding a coffee. She said, "I saw what you did." That was beautiful. Emily, startled, looked up. The woman extended her hand. "Hello, I am Rachel. Run a local non-profit media page. I document real stories of kindness in the city. May I share what I just saw?" Confused but trusting, Emily nodded. Rachel recorded a short clip, a genuine, raw moment of kindness. "What is your name?" Rachel asked. "Emily." "Just Emily," she answered softly. Rachel wrote a brief story. This young woman gave away her last $5 to a stranger and walked away without asking for anything in return. I do not know who she is, but I want to know her story. She posted it on Instagram and Twitter. By morning, the video had gone viral. Thousands of comments flooded in. Who is this girl? Find Emily. She is a real-life angel. The world knew nothing of Emily's pain, but her small act of kindness touched countless hearts. That same day, Rachel returned to the shelter with a laptop and an invitation. People want to hear your story. Write it, publish it, I will help you. That $5, given to a stranger, became bread for him. And for Emily, it became a new path in life. The moment Emily gave away her last $5 was a viral story to the world. For her, it was a rebirth. That night, as the shelter slept, Emily sat with a new laptop, a gift from Rachel. A blank page blinked on the screen, as if life itself was asking, "Are you ready to begin again?" She started writing. As she typed, the pain of the past year flowed through her tears onto the screen. It was the story of a small-town girl with big dreams, whom the world kept trying to make small. But this time, she was not writing only for herself. She was writing for everyone who had been broken, but refused to give up. Rachel edited and polished the story, then published it on a blog. The Girl with the $5 Heart. Within days, thousands shared it. Strangers sent messages. "You gave me hope again. I cried reading this." A small publishing house reached out. "Can we turn your story into a book?" Emily wrote an email to her mother, the first in years. "I am okay, Mom. Better than okay." The pages of her journal, once guardians of her pain, were becoming a memoir titled Still Standing. The book launched in a cozy bookstore. Emily had no new clothes to wear, but her face glowed. People came, got books signed, took selfies. But one moment stood out, a 14-year-old girl, eyes full of tears, clutching Emily's book. She said, "Your story gave me the courage to write." Emily hugged her and thought, maybe this was my purpose. Invitations followed for non-profit writing workshops for people who wanted to turn their pain into words. Podcasts, interviews, colleges. Emily's story echoed everywhere. A TV anchor introduced her, from rock bottom to rising above it all. Meet Emily Carter. She left the shelter and rented a small studio apartment in the same New York where she once had nowhere to stay. But the most precious moment, she sent her mother a gift box containing a copy of her book, a note, "Thank you for never letting me forget who I am," and a check, her first gift to her mother. Emily's face still held that same simplicity. She sometimes wore that old hoodie, a reminder of where she came from. She earned money now, but her greatest victory was this: she had learned to love herself. The girl who once had only a $5 bill had become a living message of hope to the world. Some stories are not just read. They are felt. Emily's was one of those. She was now a writer, with an identity of her own. But she understood the true meaning of success when she met that man again. During a book signing event at a New York cafe, as Emily stepped outside with a coffee, a man approached her. Nervous, with a shy look in his eyes, he held an old photograph. "I have been looking for you," he said. "You kept me alive." It was the same man she had given her last $5 to. He shared his story. That day, he used the money not just for food, but to get to a rehab center and register. Today, he was clean, working part-time, and helping other homeless people. Emily's eyes filled with tears. They hugged, and that embrace said more than words ever could. "We survived." Months later, Emily received an international award, a Humanity Through Words, for writers who changed the world. On stage, as she took the microphone, the room fell silent. She said, "I came to this city dreaming of being a writer. But when I stopped writing, life wrote me. That $5 I gave away was not just money, it was me." When you give without reason, Life gives you the best reason to live." The crowd applauded, but some sat quietly, tears in their eyes, seeing their own pain in her story. Emily returned to the shelter, this time as a mentor. She led writing workshops where she was once just a homeless girl. Every page of her journal became the start of someone else's dream. One girl, one pen, one $5 bill, and one decision to give. That decision changed her world. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness becomes the greatest turning point in a life. And if all you have to give is your heart, know that you are the richest person in the world. Subscribe for more real, emotional stories that stay with you forever.